So yeah, I think I can give you guys some insight. We also have some other people here with us who will also be sharing their insights. So I think we have Melie and Nick. And if I'm missing anyone else, like, please tell me. But if you guys could just maybe introduce yourselves too, and just talk about when you took the MCAT.
Hi, I'm Melie. I took the MCAT last September, so it was the shortened one, and I'm a senior.
Hi, I'm Nick. I actually took the MCAT twice. I took the short one in September, and I took the longer one in January. So I can kind of talk about both. I'm also a senior.
Okay, thank you guys. All right, so we can get started. So just some background on the MCAT. The MCAT is divided into 4 sections. There's the chemical and physical foundations of biological systems, critical analysis, and reasoning skills, which is often shortened to the CAR section. There's the biological and biochemical foundations of living systems. And finally, there's the psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior. And this order that they're in here is the order in which they're delivered on the exam. And as you guys can see here, like the majority of the exam is like the biology, biochemistry, and the psychology and sociology part is also another big chunk, but the sections such as like organic chemistry and physics, those are a bit smaller because those sections are all combined into one. Yeah, so here's just some more info about the structure of the exam. The first part is the chemical and physical foundations, and then you have a 10-minute break. Then you have the CAR section, then you have a 30-minute break, and then the third section is the biological and biochemical section. And then you have another 10-minute break before finally finishing with the psychology and sociology section. And one thing about the MCAT is all the breaks are optional. So you have the option to not take the breaks. But personally, I would definitely recommend to take the breaks because it's a very long exam. And I feel like the breaks definitely help you kind of like regroup after finishing each section. And also like you get hungry. So during the 30-minute break or one of your 10-minute breaks, like it's nice to just like eat a snack or drink some water or just kind of get yourself together. Yeah, Nick and Melia, I don't know if you guys want to talk about that too.
Yeah, I would just reiterate that like it's a 7-hour test, and so you get really tired, and especially like you're focusing the whole time. So really utilize the breaks, and they go by a lot faster because it takes a couple minutes for them to sign you in and sign you out. So instead of being like 10-minute breaks, they're more like 8, and like, that can help out a lot, especially with like test fatigue and stuff.
Okay. So yeah, so on the MCAT, the essential classes that you should take are general chemistry 1 and 2, organic chemistry 1 and 2, physics 1 and 2, and biochemistry. Recommended classes are cell bio, genetics, social psychology. And these are kind of just like general guidelines, but I don't think that you necessarily have to take all of these classes prior to taking your MCAT. Like me, for example, I'm taking physics 2 now, so I didn't have that physics 2 foundation prior to taking my exam. But I think it worked out because the physics that is taught like in classes is not, it's way more in depth than the physics that's on the MCAT. I think MCAT physics is much more so like equation focused and more so kind of like memorizing certain principles, whereas the physics we learn in class has more of that like stronger foundational, more content type stuff. in terms of the recommended classes, I personally have not taken cell bio or genetics, but I did take social psych, and I feel like that class helped me a lot with the sociology and psychology section. And I would definitely recommend for anyone to take social psych because I think it gives you like a really, really strong foundation for the MCAT. Like I didn't have to learn too much for the sociology section because I kind of already knew most of the stuff. So it was more so just reviewing for that section. So yeah. Nick and Malia, I don't know if you guys want to add anything to that.
I definitely agree with what you said about the recommended classes. But my biology major, so genetics already before the exam, and I hadn't taken social psych, but my psych section score was actually the lowest, and I think I probably would have benefited from taking a class like that in hindsight.
Yeah, I would also kind of agree with that, in that kind of your major and your focus will be where you score the highest. Me and Melee studied together, and he was a bio major, so took all the upper levels. He was definitely a lot like more proficient in that. Like a lot of the bio you can learn, but some of it is like experimental design. So if you're doing like research or you're in just a lot of like higher level classes, it will be more familiar to you and you won't have to spend as much time.
Yeah. Okay, so now onto some MCAT study recommendations or schedules. So you can usually study for the MCAT and spread it up into 3 parts. The first part will be mostly content review, where you like get a set of MCAT books and you just read them front to back. People use this third-party program called UWorld, which have a lot of questions, and these are nice because they go into a lot of detail in their explanations for the questions. I didn't use UWorld, but my friend who also took the MCAT did, and she liked it a lot. We have a question in the chat for it. Do you guys have recommendations for MCAT books? I used exam crackers, and I like those a lot because I feel like they were very straight to the point, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. I liked it because I didn't really have that much time to like read all the books. So I feel like with exam crackers, if I just needed to like brush up on something, I could just go find it and get the answer just like in a single page rather than having to read like multiple chapters. So that would be my book recommendation, Nick, Malier, or hi Kelly, if you guys have any recommendations as well.
There's Kaplan books. I don't know if like they're in our drives that we have now, but there's like free ones lurking online, and they kind of don't change that much. So it's like 2015, 2016. So I use those, and I think those are the only textbooks I used. I used UWorld a lot. What I did was a kind of a hack, is that don't tell the government, but I like bought the 180-day pass with a it's like a recycle. And so when it cost like $200, and then I used it and then I sold it to somebody else. So it was like half price.
I used Kaplan too, but the reason I thought it was useful was because of these things that they had in the science books, especially for bio. There were these parts that they had where they would go through a paper and then they would ask you questions about the paper, and then you like answer the questions to see if you understood what was being said. And it was in like a similar format to the types of questions that were on the practice exam. So I thought that was pretty helpful, but it depends on what you find useful, I guess.
Okay, yeah, and then also for the first part, after you do your content review, it's usually helpful to take a diagnostic test just to kind of see where you stand and to see maybe areas that you're doing better in, areas that you may want to focus more in. And the AAMC, they have a diagnostics test that you can take. As far as AAMC material, I would recommend to purchase like their bundle deal if you can, because it has like a lot of practice. It has like a lot of practice questions, and it has 4 full-length practice exams, which are as similar as you can get to the real thing. So I would definitely recommend that if you can get that. The second part of MCAT studying usually is just mostly practice questions. I feel like practice questions are so important when studying for the MCAT because they're like the closest thing that you can get to like the real exam. Yeah, and like I was saying, like the AAMC has a section bank, which I believe has 100 questions for each like each subject, but the section bank questions I think are a bit harder. So they're good practice because yeah, they're pretty similar to like the harder questions that you'll see on the exam. There's also something called blueprint exams. I personally didn't take these, so maybe Kelly could talk about these a bit, as well as the Kaplan exams. Like I didn't take those either, but I know that a lot of people recommend those.
Oh, hello, I'm on. Sorry I was late, everyone, but basically I took the blueprint exams. I actually think I thought that they were really helpful, and they're of the better third-party exams that there is. Kaplan is good, but it's very content heavy and it tends to be deflated. So that's another, like if you're taking a Kaplan exam, just know that it may be deflated. I think sometimes it can lower people's confidence. So definitely just know that it's deflated. Same with blueprint. Usually like most people are around the 510 region, even like people who get 520 on the real one, they usually sometimes remain around the 510. So it is slightly deflated. But yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like the general like rule of thumb for Kaplan is that add 10 points to your score, 8 to 10 points. And it's if you're scoring 510 or higher on Kaplan, you're in good territory. And then blueprint is kind of more indicative to the regular exam in that like you only add like 3 or 4 points to your score from blueprint. And the reason for that is just because like the practice tests, they want you to seem like you're doing bad because so you can buy their like courses and stuff. And so like if you already have a 520 on the practice test, you have like no incentive to. So like they make it seem like you're doing worse than you are, and they kind of go in more like minutia and like detail than you really need to be in, especially like the chem and bio and stuff.
Okay. And then the third part of the MCAT study schedule usually includes mostly just AAMC content and their full-length exams. It's definitely recommended to keep the AAMC material for the last part of your studying, just because it'll be closer to your exam and you'll most likely have all of your studying and like content review under your belt. So then you're really focused on like exam taking practice, because I feel like a big chunk of the MCAT is of course like content and just like knowledge, but the other part is like endurance and building up your stamina to be able to take this like super long exam. And like I know for me, something that I struggle with is just like staying focused for a really long time. But I feel like when you're taking like these full length exams, like you kind of get better at that. Yeah, and like the AMC has lots of study materials. They have the flashcards, subject packs, and they have like 2 big cars, like review question packs, which are super helpful because I feel like with the car section, it can be kind of hard to study for because it's you read a passage and then you answer questions, and the passage is different every time. So it's not like you can really study like a set of material. You have to just learn the passages and like learn how to pick out answers from passages. So I feel like the AMC cars section bank question packs are very helpful for that. Okay. And we talked a bit about this earlier, but there are many MCAT subject resources. As far as biochemistry, like we were saying earlier, the Kaplan biochemistry chapters are pretty good. There's something called AK lectures, because for the MCAT, you also need to know lab techniques. So they'll ask stuff about like, I don't know, if you're taking like Chem Lab or Orgo Lab, they'll ask a lot about those types of lab techniques that you learn in those classes. As far as biology resources, again, Kaplan is good. The AMC biopacks are great. Same with chemistry. And for Orgo, there's also Khan Academy videos, which are very helpful, especially if there's just like one subject that you kind of are struggling with. I feel like if you watch those videos, it's kind of like watching a lecture on something, so you can really brush up and get that down pat. Someone asked, will this be recorded? Yes, we are recording this and we'll send this out later to you guys. Yeah, and here we have more study resources. Yeah, I would say for me, something that definitely helped a lot was this 300-page psych-social document. I feel like with the psychosocial section is definitely a lot of memorization. So what I would do, like especially leading up to my exam, like just before going to bed, I would just try to read like 10 pages of this document. I feel like that definitely helped me a lot, just to kind of do a little bit every day. There's something called Jack Weston for cars, and it's this website that will release a new cars passage every day. So that's really good practice. And you can also look at the old ones so that you have a lot of cars practice. And yeah, of course, like the Khan Academy videos are great. And yeah. Okay. Yeah, like we were saying, Khan Academy, they have lots of MCAT review material, but also correct me if I'm wrong though, I think Khan Academy is getting rid of their MCAT stuff.
Yeah,
think
so
yeah,
they're getting rid of their MCAT stuff, unfortunately, I think on September 21st, 2021. So this is more relevant for the people who are taking the MCAT between now and like June. But yeah, unfortunately.
Actually, so I'm on this MCAT page on Facebook, and someone said that they downloaded every single video and stuff. So there's that stuff out there. Like if you really need it, like there's someone on the internet who has probably downloaded it. So.
And Jack Weston has the questions that Khan Academy has on his website. So those are there too.
Yeah, okay. Another big part of MCAT studying is surprisingly Reddit. I feel like I was never on Reddit as much as I was when I was taking the MCAT or studying for the MCAT. There's like a big MCAT community on Reddit. I don't know why, but like for example, if you're taking like a full-length exam and you get a question wrong, or you might not understand the question, sometimes the AMC, they don't give like the best explanations for their question. So if you were to go on Reddit, for example, and type in that same question, you'll find like a whole thread of people discussing it. And sometimes those explanations will be better than the AMC explanations. Yeah, and also Reddit, I don't know, it just had like a lot of memes and like jokes and stuff leading up to the exam. So it was kind of nice to be on there. It's like a little community of everyone studying together. And then there's also something called Anki. I think some people use this just to study for like regular classes, but it's basically like flashcards, and there's several decks out there that are specifically for the MCAT. And these are nice because like it's like all in one place, and like if you get one wrong, you can kind of put it into a new deck just to keep studying those specific ones. And yeah, there's lots of Anki decks out there that are super helpful.
Okay, so I just want to talk about the fee assistance program. I am actually on the fee assistance program, and if you qualify, definitely get the fee assistance program. It is a great program. You just have to be, your family has to be making below the federal poverty line, which I linked here in the slideshow, but you can also just look it up on their website. But basically, and you have to be a US citizen, but the benefits are your MCAT registration fee is only $130. Your MCAT prep bundle is for free, which is normally about, I want to say $230, but you get the whole thing for free. And if they add new things, like for this past 2021 year, they added a new cars like diagnostic pack, which has 28 passages, and that just automatically gets loaded into your account. Like you don't have to buy a new one. You get a waived application fee for 20 medical schools, which you're only going to be applying to like 2025-ish. So that's pretty good. And then you can get a free 2-year subscription to the MSAR, which is this program that helps you compare medical schools and look up the stats and like any details you need to know like about each medical school, like including tuition, whether it's out of state, in state, those kinds of things. So the benefits begin on the date of approval and expire December 31st, 2022, but you can reapply. The only thing is, and why I'm telling you guys this, is if you want to take the MCAT, you want to get approved for this program before you take the MCAT or before you like register, because the benefits are not retroactive. So let's say you get approved, but you already registered for the MCAT, they're not going to give you that like $200 back. So it just starts from when you get it. So just make sure that you sign up for that. And then Monica, you can go to the next slide. And so I also wanted to show you guys where you guys can get a few free exams. I understand that the exams are really expensive, and packs and bundles are really expensive. So these are just some ways you can get the free exams. And in this link right here, when you look at the slideshow, that's like a document someone made that has all different types of free exams. But basically you can get these Kaplan exams, and these underlined words here are links, so you can click them. And you just have to enter these codes, but like they put the codes on the internet. So these are the codes. So next slide. And then we have some free MCAT tutoring programs, and I'm sure there are more other than this, so definitely be on the lookout. A lot of summer programs also incorporate MCAT tutoring, especially summer programs that are geared toward underrepresented students. They usually incorporate MCAT tutoring within their like 2-year, 3-year experience that they like set up. And so we have free MCAT tutoring, which is Jump is partnered with them. So if you guys are part of Jump, if not, you can reach out to us and we can try and get you on there and get you linked up with them too. So they have some MCAT tutors there that can help you. They meet with you once a week. They also host office hours, and they also have UWorld discount codes. And I used UWorld a lot when I was studying for the MCAT. I highly recommend it. And then there are summer programs, as I was saying, Step Up, U Miami MCAT, Utah MCAT Prep, and then there's more at this link. So definitely check that out. Next slide. And we also created an MCAT Google Drive folder that we want to expand upon in our future. But basically we have some MCAT resources in there, and we're going to continue adding and adding. So definitely if you want to like add this to your drive or whatever, that would be really good to have. And our last but not least, we have an exciting blueprint offer. We will be sending you more details as we solidify this partnership, which should be solidified within the next few days. But basically, you can get 15% discount code on all courses and exams, and Blueprint is quite expensive. So it will be definitely helpful. And we'll probably have even more events where we can share more news about this offer. But what you guys would have to do is just sign up for their emails, and we're going to probably be emailing out the instructions for what to do. And next slide. Now we are going to send in the link for questions, but one, I have, if the people who are interested in the MCAT raffle, if you guys can just private message me that you're interested so I can get all of your names into this random name generator, that would be great. Two, we'll be sending more information about the Blueprint partnership, and hopefully that will solidify and we'll be able to email you guys that within the next week. Three, we're going to use this platform for the live ask, which I think someone will be sending in the chat. And four, we have med students here from the SNMA at Johns Hopkins Medicine, and I just want them to introduce themselves. They're going to be here to also answer your questions from the perspective of someone in medical school, which I think could be really helpful, and someone who went through the application process. So if you guys want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Oh, well, I'm Tristan. I'm a first year at Hopkins, and I made a little document about just kind of my scores and what I felt like worked for me. I definitely agree with everything said in the presentation, and I'll try to drop that here. And yeah, if you want to reach out now or later on, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I can go next. Hi guys, I'm Alexa. I'm a third year at Hopkins. I ended up taking the MCAT twice and I'm still at Hopkins, so also definitely happy to talk about kind of that whole experience or questions kind of beyond the MCAT outside of this. I'm happy to leave my email for you guys as well.
And hi, my name is Kayla. I'm also a first year at Hopkins. I took the MCAT in 2018. You guys have been a lot of good advice, and I'm also here to answer any questions if anybody has them.
And I just want to mention like one last resource that wasn't in the slides, but there's this like Facebook page called Mcat Bros where people just like talk about their med school journey, ask any questions, and like everyone, like literally anyone will answer. You can even ask anonymously. So, and they have an Instagram page too. So I highly recommend like asking them, like asking questions on there. It's like, it really is a community of people who are interested in medicine. So yeah, and I also dropped the link where people can ask questions anonymously, and we'll be answering those soon.
I'm not sure why, but I don't think I could share documents in the chat. So is it okay if I just emailed it to somebody after this to send out? Thank you.
Yeah, if you could reply to the email chain that we've had with the document, that would be great. Thank you. And did everyone get the link to the live ask? If you did not get the link, it's in the chat. And if you need it again, just let us know. And Monica, can you read off the questions while I try to do the raffle?
Yeah. Okay, so the first question, wait. Yeah, okay, so I think the first question is more so for our med students. It says, what were you involved in during undergrad? Or
I guess I can go first. I'm assuming they mean extracurricular activities, research, that type of stuff. I did, so I was on the tennis team at my school for the first 2 years. I was at in undergrad, so that took up a lot of my time. But afterwards, I got involved in just like community service, became an art and reading tutor at the local elementary school. And I also started doing cancer research in a lab, and I was there for 3 years. I actually took a gap year so I could focus on that full time. And of course, also shadowing, and I volunteered at the hospital.
And then I also was involved in sports at my school. I did Club Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for my first 2 years. And then I also did Spartan racing or like obstacle course racing. And then for community service, I worked with challenge athletes and Special Olympics. And for my clinical and medical research, I actually started interning at a plastic surgery clinic my junior year of high school. And I kind of just stuck with that steadily and went back in the summers because we had to do a science internship way back then. And I just really enjoyed it. And I kind of just stuck with it. Thanks, Kayla.
I actually also played sports. You definitely don't have to play sports to go to med school, y'all. But I played lacrosse for all 4 years of undergrad, so also had no time for research or anything else really. So I actually decided to take 2 gap years to kind of get a little bit more clinical experience shadowing as well as doing research stuff. And I honestly just worked as a research assistant, so helped out with a ton of different projects without kind of one specific unifying aim. So there are definitely a lot of things that you can do. I always suggest to people interested in applying to med school to do what you're actually interested in. Like there are all these kind of categories that they say you need to check a box with research, with clinical experiences, etc. And to some extent, you want to have some exposure to all of those, just because down the line, schools are going to want to know if you really know what you're getting yourself into. But beyond that, you really should do what is interesting to you and what you think is fun, because being able to talk about experiences that are actually meaningful to you goes a long way in interviews versus just talking about something you did because you felt like you had to do it.
Okay, thank you guys. So the next question is, how long did you all study for the MCAT? And I guess I can answer this. So I started studying for the MCAT. Well, I took it in January and I started studying like last semester and maybe September. But as the semester went on, like it was definitely hard for me to study for the MCAT while taking classes. So I would say I didn't really study that much during the semester, or not as much as I would have liked to. But then during intersession, when we didn't really have classes, I like studied every single day for like the whole month of January. But I would definitely I wish I had had more time to kind of do that same intense studying. But yeah, that was my timeline.
I guess I can go next. I started studying, I guess, in May, and I was never a big proponent of like the really full-time stuff. So I just did like 4 hours a day, and then like sometimes less. And I took it in September, and then I wasn't super happy with my score, and so I studied like off and on until January, and then I got the second score, and I was really happy with that one. So probably like May to September, I took a month off, and then to January.
I studied for 3 months and I think 2 weeks, so like around 3 months. I also did full-time studying. Like I figured that'd be easier than trying to balance it with class, because I wanted to take it during the summer. And I thought that really benefited me being able to focus on it without having anything else like that needed my attention meanwhile.
Okay. Another question is, I think also directed more so towards the med students. It says, is there an early decision or assurance program when applying to medical schools? I found some info on this, but I heard it was discouraged.
I personally didn't apply early decision anywhere. I just applied really broad and on both sides of the coast, and then and yeah, so I don't know how much input I could give on that, but yeah.
Same. I don't recall there being, I mean, it's possible that there are early decision programs. I'm not aware of any of them, but I also just, because medical school is such a difficult, it's a long process, and during interviews, you get to visit the school and get to more of a sense of like how much it'll be a fit for you. I really don't think like early decision would be the best way to go about it.
I can give my insight on this. So from what I've heard about like early decision type of programs, typically you actually apply for those when you're like in high school and like as a senior, and then it's kind of like a connection program between like undergrad and med school. But those are very, very selective. And I've heard that the dropout rate is like really high. And it's like cramming med school and undergrad in like less time. And so it's like kind of stressful, but at the same time, you don't have to take the MCAT, but I guess it doesn't really apply for us here. I don't know if there is something similar for if you are already an undergrad, but yeah, you could look into those, I guess.
Okay. Another question we have is, I'm a sophomore and I don't think I'll be taking a gap year, but I'm not taking biochem until fall 21. So when would I take the exam? And studying during the semester seems rough for me.
I can answer it, Monica, if you.
Okay, yeah, got it.
So Hopkins Biochem is like really, out of all the classes, the pre-med class that we have, that's the one that's most like correlated to the actual exam material. So you can do what you want, and that you can take it during the summer if you would like, or you can not take it in self-study. That's like one of the ones that I would say, I mean, the other people in the chat can agree or disagree, but that's the one like people most recommend that you actually take before taking the exam. But if you weren't planning on taking a gap year, you would have to take the MCAT before your junior summer, because that's when you would be applying. So just keep that in mind.
So you're a sophomore taking it fall 21. So you'll be taking it fall of your junior year. So usually if you're not taking gap year, you apply like HPCA for Hopkins is due in March. So your HPCA would be due that spring of your junior year. And then you submit your double AMC application in May. So actually in my summer program, it was an MCAT program, and people took the MCAT in August and they just got their scores to the school late. So you could study junior year summer and just get the scores to your school like after you finish all of your double AMC application. So that is a possible route to take.
I think another possibility is intercession also. That's like a really good time where you could do some full-time studying if that's what works for you. But yeah, a lot of people also use intercession and like winter break as a time to study.
Okay. Another question we have is, what tips do you have to overcome testing anxiety and fear? This is a good question. I feel like when you're studying for the MCAT, like you definitely get a lot of anxiety during that time period. And I think for me, something that really helped was just talking to people. Like when I was taking my exam, like some of my friends were also studying for it. So we would definitely just like rely on each other for support and stuff like that. But also, I feel like this is specific to everyone, but I feel like for me, like I just had to remind myself, like, okay, like at the end of the day, it's just a test. And you know, I'm studying for it. And like if I don't get the score that I want, I can always just retake it. So I feel like that definitely helped to take the pressure off of myself, as well as just talking to the people around me. I don't know if anyone else has something else to add on this.
When I took the MCAT, I had a bit of a routine. First off, I took a lot of practice exams. It's not fun, but it definitely gets you acclimated to like the amount of time you're going to be spending on the test. And doing it, especially I did it while I was doing content review. So seeing my score grow as I remembered more definitely gave me more confidence on the test. I also, like I had a routine, like every time I took it, I would go for like a bike ride just to get like awake. I'd have a cup of coffee and then I do the same thing over again. And I also think that kept me from getting anxious the actual day of the exam.
Yeah, I agree with everything said. I definitely think break days are good when you could feel yourself kind of getting anxious. In terms of anxiety on the test, I think my most of my anxiety came with the car section. And one tip that I got was just like closing your eyes and taking a breath before starting each section. And I also found the more that I reviewed my Kaplan or whatever book set you do for content review, I just feel like the more material you know, the more comfortable you are on the exam, the less stressed out you get. And I think that just helps with stamina and all of that.
Okay, another question we have is what has been the most rewarding part of your med school experience thus far?
I can start for that one. So I'm a little bit farther along in my med school training, so my answer is probably pretty different than our other med students on here. But I definitely think by the time that you get to like your third, fourth year is when you're actually involved in patient care. You have patients who you're responsible for, and it kind of feels like what you've been working up to, that this all of what all this is for, basically. So I would definitely say, even though all the studying and all the tests are grueling and exhausting, it definitely feels worth it when you're actually in patient rooms and you feel like you're making a difference for patients.
Yeah, as Alexa said, I'm only in the second semester of medical school, but I would say for me, it's probably been, we have a thing called longitudinal ambulatory clerkship. So we get assigned to clinics around Baltimore and in like the surrounding suburbs. And I've been assigned to a pediatric clinic. I get to interview patients, help test reflexes of children who are like 2 months old. It's very cute, and it's also very rewarding because it's like stuff I'm learning how to interact with patients, and it'll help me when I, eventually become a doctor.
I would agree with everything said, especially Kayla, because we're in the same year and we're both on longitudinal clerkships right now. And I'm in a OB-GYN clinic, and learning about women's healthcare and all those topics has been really fun and rewarding. I would also say it's a tie between interacting with patients and just meeting the first years at Hopkins socially distance, because I feel like everyone here is like really down to earth and collaborative, and I can't speak for all med schools, but that's been my experience so far.
Okay, thank you guys. Another question we have is, would you recommend taking social psychology, sociology, or both to prepare for the MCAT? Me personally, I took social psych, and I feel like that helped me a lot. And I think in terms of sociology, like I'm a public health major, and a lot of my public health classes kind of covered the broad sociology topics. So if you're kind of in the same boat as me, like public health major, I would definitely recommend to take social psych instead of sociology. But if your major doesn't really cover either, I would try to take both if you can. But I feel like with psychology and sociology, you can also use like the resources like your books or the Kaplan sheets or different things to kind of cover these topics. So yeah, I don't know if anyone else has something to add.
Also, sorry, just really quick, Franklin, can you respond to my chat or chat me? Thank you.
Okay. Another question we have is, what's the best way to prepare for the MCAT as an underclassman, considering that it wouldn't be the most time efficient thing to start studying now? I guess it depends on when you're planning on taking it, but I think with the MCAT, you can, there's different ways to study for it. You can kind of go slow and steady and split it up into multiple sections. And I feel like if you make a timeline, let's say, you have like 1 or 2 hours a day, I would say just kind of like map out what you want to do during that time so that you can still get some studying in, even though you might not have like full days to study now. But yeah, I would say kind of like have the date in mind for when you want to take it. And then let's say you want to study maybe like 10 hours a week during the semester, just kind of like plug that into your schedule.
Monica, do you need me to scroll?
Yeah, I was like, yeah.
Oh, these are answered. Okay, I see. Oh, I think all the questions are answered.
No, you hit answered when it's answered.
Oh, none of these are clicked. Oh, I see.
Okay. I think this one right here isn't answered. It says, wait, hold on, Kelly. The one that says, if I take the MCAT the summer following sophomore year, but apply after senior year and take a gap year, will my MCAT scores still be valid? I believe MCAT scores are valid for 3 years after you take them. Is that correct? Yeah, so I think it would still be valid. I feel like this would be exactly 3 years. Would it? Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like it just depends. So if it's within 3 years, then yeah, it would still be valid. But if not, you would probably have to retake it. And then I guess for our med students, a question is, what is the most important advice you have for a medical school interview or anyone who has done an interview so far? Because I haven't.
My most important advice is, I think you should definitely get a sense of the type of questions that are common in a medical school interview, but you don't want to rehearse it. You don't want to sound like you're memorizing answers and just regurgitating them on interview day, because interviewers will pick up on that. They're trying to get to know you, and they don't want somebody who's like basically acting like a walking resume, if that makes sense.
I would also say you'd be surprised how conversational med school interviews are. Like I had very, very few interviews where they were trying to trip me up and make it really stressful. They really are just trying to get to know you. So I think thinking about it like that and going in as you're just talking about yourself, you're talking about experiences you've had, things that have happened to you, why you want to be a doctor, like how you've come to be where you are. And I think if you look at it like that and go in knowing it's really just a conversation of someone trying to get to know you, that also can kind of take some of the anxiety off and allow you to kind of just be yourself.
I definitely agree with everything that's been said. I know I had some questions that I tried to know what I was going to answer, but I also think that going in and just being yourself and having a conversation is the best way to do it. And I usually did better at those interviews. I did really bad at MMI, so I don't know if I have any advice for those, but yeah.
All right, thank you guys.
Monica, were all of these answered? Was this one answered? Sorry.
Yeah, I think we answered that.
Okay.
Where we answered that one. I don't think we've answered this one. What recommendations do you have for getting clinical experience during this time? Anyone wants to answer this one?
I don't know if I'm like properly equipped to answer this question because the clinical experience that we're getting is like has been organized by the school. But that being said, I guess if you find somebody, like you go online and you find like a doctor you're interested in shadowing, there's nothing wrong with shooting them an email and just asking. I'm following an ophthalmologist next week, and I literally just saw it up, so I looked her up online, and she said, yeah, sure, come into the clinic. A lot of doctors are also, I think, natural, well, not natural, but a lot of doctors also like to teach. So I think just putting yourself out there is a good way to try to get clinical experience.
Oh, I was also gonna say, during this time, like it might be good to do, there's a lot of like online shadowing things that might be available if you're just looking to like learn more about clinical things or like what is done in a clinical setting. Also, I think things will like by next semester, I sort of think that things maybe the hospitals may be allowed to let in volunteers. Another thing is Mount Washington. If you guys are in Baltimore, Mount Washington Hospital, they are actually still accepting volunteers, I think, despite they're still doing volunteers, even though it's like a lot of hospitals are closed because of COVID. So if you're interested in like doing hospital volunteering, that would be a good place to start. Like you can just go on their website and like apply, and they'll probably get back to you pretty fast.
Also, another thing, like getting your certifications for stuff is really valuable, like CPR, EMT, all that type of thing, or all those types of things. I didn't realize how valuable all that stuff was before everything shut down, but it's really important to get those types of things if you're looking for clinical interaction.
Yeah, I would agree with that last one. I had my EMT that I kind of didn't use throughout undergrad. And since we're kind of off campus, I was able to use that. And like my employer was telling me that right now it's very much a employees market for like those type of like emergency healthcare workers and stuff, because there's like so many COVID patients. And that's like, I guess would be a good narrative to say that like you were on the front lines, like helping out.
Okay. Okay, another question is, when should I plan to take the MCAT if I'm taking a gap year? Well, I think if you just plan on taking one gap year, then you would probably take it maybe like your senior year, or yeah, I would say maybe like your senior year, sometime during your senior year. And then another question we have is, if you sign up for the federal assistance program in December of 2022, will it expire that date? I feel like they meant to say of 2023.
No, so yeah, I understand the confusion because on the website it says, I think it says the program benefits expire December 22nd. So specifically on the website, it actually says it expires December of 2022, despite when you apply. So I think that it will expire in 2022. However, you can just renew it. Like you can just apply again. You can just renew it the next year. I think they just set like, they do it in 2-year intervals. Yeah, but you can renew up to 5 times. So I think it won't be an issue.
Okay, next question is, I'm a senior and I'm planning to take a gap year. Is there anything I need to do regarding getting rec letters, certificates, etc. from Hopkins before I apply? Yeah, maybe like the med students who did take gap years, maybe if you could talk about how you went about getting your rec letters and like the timing for all of that.
I can start on that one. Oh, Kayla, you can go. Okay. So I took 2 gap years, and I actually, after taking classes where I knew I wanted to get letters from people, just asked them right after, even though I knew it was going to be a while before I applied. It doesn't mean they have to write the letter then, but if they choose to do that, because that's like the closest time of them knowing you, that's whatever they want to do. And then I just tried to keep in contact with those people over my gap years, whether it was just like every 6 months, like once a year, just shooting an email to catch up, grab a coffee, just so that it didn't feel like, okay, well, actually now I'm applying. Can you write that letter for me now, even though I haven't talked to you in 2 years, which is weird. So that I thought worked pretty well for me, and my letter writers wrote pretty strong letters for me. So that would be what I would recommend.
So I don't know what it's like at Hopkins, but at my school we had the committee letter. Okay, so you guys have that too. So we had the committee letter. They actually gave us a schedule on when to like secure rec letters. And so I believe I asked mine around January. Oh, and I also took a gap year, so that's also relevant. I got mine in January of my senior year, and gave them. You have to give them a good amount of time to write it because their professors have a lot of good stuff going on. Mine weren't due until May, but just get that out of the way, or like ask early. And then other certificates, I don't know anything about that, but I would say, yeah, I would say at the beginning of your second semester, you should have already asked, you should ask your professors for rec letters.
I definitely agree with everything that's been said, especially trying to maintain relationships. I think at the start of my undergrad, I always just had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to grab 2 science letters, a humanities letter, and then a research letter and a letter from a clinician. And so I felt like I had my research letter actually came from a PA that I worked with at the plastics clinic that I interned at. And then I got my clinical letter from the physician that was working there. And then for the 2 science letters, I actually got those right before I applied from 2 science professors that I took during my spring quarter. And I think I applied that May. So that was kind of last minute. And I think I got the letters after I sent my primary in. So I think the letters were on my file like in June. And then the humanities letter, I had a decent relationship with that professor. I actually had them my freshman year. So I was able to reach out to them 2 years later and ask them for that.
Okay, and I think we have time for maybe just one last question. And
Monica, actually, I can sort of
okay.
take over. So to clarify, if you're not taking a gap year, yeah, so if you're not taking a gap year, you are applying your junior spring semester if you're going straight through. I don't personally think the other psychs are like super helpful. I think social psych is like the closest to the actual MCAT social psych section. I don't think that this is true. That summer courses look bad. I don't think that they look bad. Okay. And then, so how close do you need to be to your professor? You want to make sure that they can write a really strong letter for you. You want to make sure that you have a close enough relationship that they're going to speak about you, like, and really highlight your work ethic. And another really important thing to have that's helpful is if they can reflect on your work, like if they can talk about a project you did for them, or if you were a TA for them, if they can reflect on you in like an area that is more than just like tests and exams, that also can be really helpful because they have like more to write about. So the level of closeness is just based on like the amount that you did in the class, and like if you feel that the professor really knows you well and knows you as a person and can write you a strong letter of recommendation. Okay.
Could I also just add, if you do ask and someone says no, because I had a professor that told me no, like just don't let it bum you out and move on to the next one. And I think it's good because that way you'll get people that will write you strong letters like was just mentioned.
Yeah, that's a great comment to add. And I believe MCAT scores remain active for either 2 or 3 years from when you get the score. So that's why it's important to sort of like make sure that you're taking the MCATs in a good time. Basically just plan it out. And I can look that up while we're talking about the next question. And then the next question, I'm gonna go with how much do you recommend taking a gap year? I'm gonna open that up to the floor because I feel like that's an important question.
I personally think it's a super personal decision. If you feel like you don't need a gap year, you're on a roll, like you want to just keep things rolling, you definitely don't need to. If there's something that you want to accomplish in that gap year, like in my case, I played a sport, I didn't have, I thought, enough research or clinical experiences, so I had kind of a plan for that time, then I recommend it. But I also know people who have just traveled and they've kind of grown as a person, and they've talked about those experiences in a gap in interviews as well. So I think as long as you kind of have a plan and you have something that you want to do that you think will either improve your application or just allow you to kind of chill out if you feel like you need the break, then it's definitely worth it. But you don't have to take a gap year if you don't feel like you need it.
Yeah, I agree with Alexa. I did take a gap year and I had my own personal reasons for it. As I also played a sport, I did think that I was kind of behind on research and clinical experience. So I did that. And I will say for the gap year, one thing that I did think was an advantage, or at least for me personally, was I was glad that I was not traveling to interviews while I was also in class studying for exams. I feel like that would be very, very stressful. But again, people do it all the time, so it's definitely possible.
And then how early is too early to start practicing for the MCAT? Does anyone want to take this?
I mean, I think for me, I took my MCAT like in the beginning of September, so I gave myself the summer to study. But from what I hear, like everybody seems to have been about 3 months of studying before the MCAT, and I really don't think if you start, I don't know, 7, 8 months in advance, how likely it's going to be that you're going to retain the information that you reviewed at that point. So I feel like 3 months before is the sweet spot.
Yeah, I agree with that. I also think burnout is sort of a really big issue when studying for the MCAT. And if you start too early, you might burn out. So I think like 3 months of full-time studying is really good. And then if you're like in school, I would recommend, like, let's say you're in school and you're taking it in January, I would recommend maybe doing your content review over the summer and then doing practice questions until January. So that would be like 5-6 months-ish, but of part-time studying. And then did any of you apply to MD PhD programs, and was the process different? I'm not sure if anyone here is MD PhD. No. Okay, so we don't have anyone on the call right now that is MD PhD, but if I find any more information on that, I will. I have a friend who is applying MD PhD right now, and with the experiences that they look for the most part is obviously research experience. You want to have research experience. I think it is helpful if you have a publication or like you present somewhere, like you present your project somewhere. And then the process is a little bit different because you have an additional essay, I believe, of like, why do you want to be MD PhD? So yeah, I think you have like additional questions to answer in the actual process of applying. But that is what I know. But as my friends apply to more schools, I will be able to share more knowledge. And so I think that was all the questions we had. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, but thank you to everyone who came. I am like super appreciative, especially thank you to the med students and the undergrads who came, who already took the MCAT. It was really great to hear your advice and your experience on taking the MCAT. It is a very stressful experience. I know we went a little bit over today, but thank you so much. And if you guys have any more questions, shoot us an email. For what's to come, we're sending an email out for a suturing workshop. If you guys want to join the suturing workshop, we are going to send out the email with a form, and we are buying suturing kits. So please, if you guys want a suturing kit, fill out this form, and we're going to have med students come and teach us how to suture. And I believe the event is March 27th. So definitely go and sign up because we're really excited for that event. And we're going to be sending you out more information on the blueprint offers, and we will try to send out more information on other MCAT resources available. And congratulations to those who won the MCAT raffle and won the book set. And yeah, for everyone else, thank you so much for coming and have a great rest of your day. And thank you again to the med students. We are super appreciative of you guys taking your time to come and chat with us. Tempest, was there a sign-in link? It's okay if there wasn't.
There wasn't, but I think
Ariana and Chioma signed everyone in.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Sorry, I just had a bit of a question on like the sign up link you mentioned. Was that like in the chat or because I may have just missed that?
I think they did it by like name, but because I don't.
I think you're signed in.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Sorry, I was getting like the whole kit and like MCAT confused.
No, no worries. We're gonna be sending an email about the Tutoring kit and all the other events. Hopefully today or tomorrow. So thank you for coming.
Oh no, it was a pleasure to be here. I'm always here to want to learn more about how to get in med school.
I feel.